So this is our third video in our conflict series. Today we're going to be looking at conflict styles, so the different ways that we fight. And Jess and I are going to be sharing a bit about the way we fight and just exploring the way you fight and how we can do that healthily, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's a thing, isn't it? Fighting healthily?
It is. It actually is. And
so I don't have to give up fighting. I just need to figure out better. Okay, cool.
So yeah, we're going to have a look at 3 different ways that we approach conflict, which is fight, flight, and flow. So the first one we're going to take a look at is fight. What comes to your mind when you're fighting in conflict? Like, what does that look like?
2 kangaroos leaning back in the tails, punching it out.
I have actually witnessed that in real life.
I've never seen that.
It's pretty amazing, but
when
yes.
okay, no, so with people. Sorry, I'm just mucking around. Fight, like aggression, anger, frustration.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think of when I think of fighting.
Aggressive is a really good one because it is a very aggressive style of fighting. So think of things like yelling. Look, sometimes that can be physical as well. It can be manipulation, it can be sulking, and sort of the message is...
Sulking can be...
Yeah, sulking can actually be one. The message is basically that I'm right and you're wrong.
Okay.
And there's an intention to blame or punish the other person.
Yeah, right.
So it is an aggressive form and it can look like different things, but ultimately it's a I win, you lose situation.
Okay.
When we fight, I'm seeking to win,
Yep.
the other person loses.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. It's interesting to think about that because I think of it more being the louder, more verbal, like coming at someone. But sulking is moving away, but you're still saying that's still fighting because it's, I want you to lose.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use that as a way to manipulate you into losing, and that's still the fight mode, just in a different way.
Absolutely. And so as we go through these, you'll see that actually some of the behaviours can be across all 3 of them.
Yeah, right.
Depending though on what the intention behind it is to whether it's a fight, flight, or flow. So we'll take a look at that. The next one is flight. So, flight. What does that look like?
Leaving, like escaping the situation.
Yeah.
For me, it's getting my car and driving off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Escaping. It's avoidance.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very passive. People who don't like conflict will tend to enter into the flight mode, and that can look like crying as well. It can also look like sulking because you really want to avoid that conflict, so you don't know how to deal with it. So I burst into tears, or I walk away, or I try and sweep it under the rug sometimes too. So it can actually almost be nice in a way of you just go, okay, well, I'm wrong, you're right, I don't want to deal with the conflict, so let's fix this. It's all okay, you're right, I'll do whatever you say, or I'm sorry, when it's actually not dealing with the conflict. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that because I do think of like that physical removal.
Yes.
But as I listen to you, it can like stay in the same space, or like that tears.
Yeah.
Or like I think I can do flight by trying to patch things up.
Yes. Yeah.
Make things good to avoid having to deal with it.
Yeah.
But that's also flight. Even though I'm being present to it, I'm actually trying to resolve it by just moving past it or moving around it.
Which isn't resolving.
No, I'm avoiding it. Yes, I'm still.
Yeah.
This isn't meant to be a casting session for me, Jen.
Sorry.
But no.
We'll do that one afterwards.
I'm just mucking around. No, it's helpful
for
me to think through like my conflict style.
Yeah.
Definitely. I can do the avoidance thing. That's probably a better word for me than flight, like avoidance.
Well, that's the intention behind it. So if you think about fight and flight, like what's your intention behind your behaviour? Is it to avoid the conflict, to sweep it under the rug or get away from it? Or is it to actually fight the other person and be aggressive and blame the other person and punish the other person? So it depends on what your intent behind the behaviour is as to whether it's fight or flight. Okay. And we can have both of those. Like I can do both of those things depending on the situation or the person involved.
Okay.
I can absolutely fall into fight or flight mode and both of those behaviours for sure.
Right.
So often people will have a little bit more of a default one, and particularly that comes out more around your family and your friends that you're close with. That's when it'll come out. You might actually be a conflict avoider at work, but at home.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a like a counselling session. That is, yeah. Like I'm definitely much more with friends and work, much more of an avoider, and I'm much more of a fighter.
Yeah. It happens. And there's a final conflict style that we're going to take a look at. Flow.
So this is a good one, right? This is where we want to be?
Yes.
Okay.
So what do you think it might be?
I think that flow, like a stream or a river, like it's going with it. Like flow, action sports, which I love. It's like getting that state of being with that thing in that moment.
Yeah.
Present.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a...
Yeah, look, it can be all
Makes
those
sense.
things, and it's really like what it looks like is you actually discuss the issue.
Okay.
You actually talk about it. You explain your perspective. You listen to the other person's perspective. The intent behind it is to actually resolve the conflict and come to a solution. It's an I win, you win approach. There's no look, it's not always going to be easy. It's going to be uncomfortable, and that's why we fight or flight. Is because it's so uncomfortable sometimes to actually have these really hard discussions, and to get it all out there on the table. And because sometimes it does take a little bit of humility or a little bit of just movement between you two to actually then finally reach a good resolution where you both actually win. So that is the ideal.
Yeah. that is tough, especially when you feel right or you feel too valued or whatever in conflict, to actually come to a place where you're willing to give as well as get.
Yeah.
And you find that common ground or that win-win. Yes.
Yeah.
I understand the principle.
Yes,
in
but
practice.
it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But it does, that whole thing of wanting to be right or prove that we're right.
Yeah.
Ultimately, though, what's your goal in a relationship, whether it be a personal
totally.
relationship or a work relationship? Is it to be right, or is it to salvage the relationship and have a healthy relationship?
Totally.
I know, I'm not saying...
No. When I'm in a healthy place, I think
that's
I've got a lot better, and Nell and I, my wife, have got better at flow because we've done a lot of counselling and stuff too, and he's helped us with that space. But so like not doing the blame shame thing or heightening it by saying stupid things, which I can do when I'm in the fight mode, only adds to that conflict. Whereas if you're in flow, like you're generally trying to resolve rather than trying to one up or make the other person feel bad or feel my pain.
So true. And look, we're going to actually delve a little bit more into some of those things, because you mentioned things like things that you'll say in the middle of fight or flight that are unhelpful. So over the next couple of videos, before we get to the steps to resolution, which we promise, we're going to have a look at another round of sort of, I guess, conflict management styles, which sort of details it out a little bit even further. But then also 4 elements that can appear in conflict that are super detrimental to relationships. And in fact, the person that discovered these, or essentially has named them, not discovered them, can predict with over 90% accuracy whether a relationship is going to end or not, by watching people fight and identifying whether these 4 things are in that. So that's in a couple of videos' time, so make sure you stay tuned to the series, because it's going to get good. And then we'll tell you how to fix it.
Sweet.
So
looking forward to it.
Fight, flight, flow. 3 styles of conflict. Let's try and be in flow, people.